Local news stations had their hands full reporting on this massive debacle. A local hippopotamus escaped from its enclosure and was on a true rampage throughout the city. It damaged cars, scared the living daylight out of civilians. That was until this man found out why and stepped into the street. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. The morning when all this commotion started seemed quite normal at first. Visitors were buzzing as they walked around the local city zoo. It was right during feeding time, so almost all animals were out and about, which was exciting. But then, a large-scale commotion was heard near the west gate. Visitors came flocking in and tried to get a peek at what was going on at the hippo enclosure. But pretty soon, interest switched toward panic when one of the animals inside became dangerously restless. Loud roars were heard, and some people had already started running in the other direction out of panic. It became clear that this animal was trying to escape its enclosure. It started out as futile attempts, but the large, dangerous animal was soon leaning over the border and shifting its massive, blubbery weight toward the zoo's guests. At that time, the zookeepers arrived on the scene, but any attempt made by the zoo's staff seemed futile. Zookeepers tried to tap the animal's nose, which normally made it flinch enough to step back, but after a few more attempts, the hippo fully escaped its confinement. The 5,000-pound hippopotamus was now fully walking on the zoo's concrete pavement. It shared its space with the frightened guests as they tried to run away from him. Their fear was justified because the moment this hippo reached public grounds, it started demolishing stuff. It was a scary scene to behold. The large animal roared, instilling fear into many people attending the zoo that day. Nobody understood why the animal acted this way, but it wouldn't be long before they all found out. As more guests left the danger-filled zoo, so did the hippo, who tried to do the same. The animal was faster than expected, running toward the closest exit as if it knew where to go. Zookeepers tried to block its path, but did not prevail. It was just 15 minutes after the animal's initial outburst in its enclosure. But the large and dangerous hippo was already outside the zoo and walked across public streets. And there, the rampage truly got even more serious. The consequences of the animal's escape would be massive. So what now? It didn't take long for the consequences of the animal's escape to occur, and it started with a full-scale halt of the city's traffic. The hippo went on to occupy a busy intersection in the heart of the city, causing cars to stop in their tracks and even get slammed by the large animal. People simply left their cars and started running. Other cars crashed into one another out of the sheer panic of their drivers. This was getting out of hand quickly. Within half an hour, the entire city was in uproar, and something needed to happen quickly for the sake of the people and the hippo. There was only one problem. The zookeeper called the animal rescue team from outside the city the moment the hippo left his zoo. But by the time the team assembled their gear and got onto the road, the entire city was already blocked off. There was no way they could come closer. Traffic jams went on for miles with no movement. The team of 6 even put on their siren and asked drivers to move, but with no result. Some of the cars didn't even have drivers in them anymore, and the team was still at least 20 minutes away by car, so help was far removed. Who was present on time, though, were the local media stations. Their offices lay central in the city, which allowed them to arrive at the scene on foot and on time. Multiple media setups were placed around the intersection regarding the animal, and filming started mere moment after the hippo's arrival. With the camera rolling, the news reporters brought live footage of the shocking scene. To get the best scoop, they even brought their own lives in danger for a better view. The animal roared, and with it, he warned the media crew to stay back. He even slammed a car to prove his point. The images were scary and sad at the same time, and they were all aired at the same time on their respective TV towers. This allowed civilians at home to witness the breaking news happening downtown live. And it was a good thing too, because it led to the following. When all these things were happening downtown, somewhere else in the city, an older man turned on his TV. To most people, this guy was just your average Joe. He had gray hair and a crook in his step while walking. But it would turn out that this man was far from normal. The man's name was Carl Wavers, and that name would soon be remembered by every civilian in town. And it all started when he changed his TV channel to a local news broadcast. The images on his screen showed the distressed hippo situation downtown. Carl saw how the hippo was angry and restless. The news broadcaster present declared that the rescue team, who were meant to handle the situation, was unable to arrive at the scene. She stated that nobody knew how this would end. And as she said those words, the camera zoomed in on the large, blubbery mammal. And then this happened. Carl got out of his chair and outed a flurry of emotions. He was shocked that this hippo had escaped from the zoo and caused this much mayhem. But he was mostly angry that things could come this far. Damn it, this was just a matter of time. Carl paced, mumbling through his living room. Carl knew what he had to do. The old man ran out of his living room and changed out his Sunday slippers for rugged weather-resisting boots before leaving his house on a mission. Getting the car downtown was not an option. It would only let him get stuck, just like the rescue team. That's why Carl opted for a smaller vessel. While the entire city had come to a standstill, one man raced past them all. Carl zigzagged through stationary cars on his moped and tried not to crash into one on his way to that dreaded intersection. But what was he going to do there? Carl knew he had to act fast because neither the police nor the local government would probably know what to do in a situation like this. And because that was the case, it could end pretty badly. A hippo was not an animal allowed to mingle with civilians, so police would have to remove it. Removing it was a kind term for something far more gruesome. Carl knew that removing it meant, by any means, necessary. Most likely that would result in the end of the hippo's life. Carl wanted to prevent this from happening. He shifted into higher gear and raced like the wind. Tears were forming in Carl's eyes, not from the wind flowing into his face, but from the thought of this poor innocent animal suffering if he did not hurry. After 10 minutes, Carl reached the intersection. People saw the old man park his moped and step onto the street. Everyone looked on in fear. The giant hippo had just broken off a fire hydrant, and large volumes of water spilled into the street, making the scene even more dramatic. Media was still filming, but the roars of the hippo had driven them to film from further away. So the only two mammals now present were the hippo and Carl. Fear was palpable in these city streets, but it appeared that Carl's face did not express that fear. He didn't seem scared at all and calmly walked through the intersection toward the rampaging animal. The confrontation quickly turned into a stalemate, and both parties stared deeply into each other's eyes. Eventually, Carl stretched out his arm as if he wanted to pat the giant hippo. Everyone around the old man screamed for him to step back and run away, and even the hippo made it seem like this was a good plan. The large animal stomped its feet and roared multiple times, fueling the fire. But all that commotion did not penetrate Carl's calm mind. Carl's hand was still stretched out, so with the distance shortened, he was able to touch the large hippo. The old man places his right hand on the animal's head, and then something extraordinary happens. The aggressive and confused hippo turned into a calm animal almost instantly. It was unbelievable. All the civilians watching at the intersection were in awe. Most stood there in shock, whispering to one another. But Carl wasn't done yet. There was one more step. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a tranquilizing dart, normally used with a rifle. Carefully, he inserted it into the animal's neck. Bill, the 5,000-pound hippo, let out a startled roar before falling fast asleep. The media rushed in, eager to cover the stunning event. But Carl kept them at bay, demanding distance. Soon, the zoo owner arrived with his staff and police officers carrying live firearms. Carl was relieved he had prevented bloodshed, but his emotions quickly turned to anger. He confronted the zoo owner harshly, asking, "How could you let it come to this?" Carl then revealed his identity. He was a retired zookeeper, and Bill the hippo had once been his close companion. The two had shared a strong bond, making the current situation especially painful. Carl explained how the zoo's conditions had deteriorated since his retirement. The new management had shrunk enclosures to crowd in more animals and laid off half the staff to cut costs. How can overworked caretakers properly care for all these animals? He demanded. He had tried to raise awareness before, writing petitions and asking the local government to intervene, but no one listened. Now, with the media present, he had the chance to be heard. Turning to the cameras, Carl raised his voice and delivered a passionate speech. He exposed the mismanagement, pointing to the tranquilized Bill as undeniable proof of neglect. His message was broadcast live to millions. This time, officials were watching. The sight of a rampaging hippo and Carl's emotional plea could not be ignored. The city responded quickly. Bill was safely relocated to a sanctuary outside the city, one with proper facilities and a thriving hippo colony. He was visibly happier there and integrated easily with the other hippos. Meanwhile, Carl's revelations triggered an investigation. Authorities inspected the zoo and confirmed his claims. The owner was removed, a rare but necessary decision. A new manager was appointed, and additional staff hired to improve animal care. Despite being retired, Carl agreed to return temporarily to oversee the transition. He treated it not as a job, but as a mission. Enclosures were expanded, giving animals more space. The sanctuary that welcomed Bill took in the overflow, ensuring proper conditions for all creatures. The staff received better training, and the improvements became evident in the animals' well-being. Once the transformation was complete, Carl retired once more, this time with peace of mind. "It's unfortunate that Bill had to go on a rampage to force this change," he said, "but the outcome is wonderful." About a year later, when Bill had fully settled into his new home, Carl received an invitation from the sanctuary. When he arrived, tears filled his eyes. Bill had just become a father. His baby girl was playing nearby, and Carl could see the joy in Bill's eyes. The once troubled Hippo had found peace, and so had Carl.